Gladiolus, chrysanthemums, and black-eyed Susans. In this video, I'm showing you how to illustrate the flowers of late summer. Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Hey gang, welcome back. My name is Shayda Campbell and today we are drawing flowers, late summer flowers like glads, chrysanthemums, and black-eyed Susans. Grab a little sketchbook that you like and a pencil. I like a mechanical pencil. And we're starting with black-eyed Susans. Now, as I always say, begin with a guide. Draw a circle that defines how large your flower is going to actually be. Then, mark your stamen, the center, and then from there you can go in and start putting in those little petals. And the black-eyed Susan is very much like a daisy. We do this circle of petals, pretty straight stem and leaves that kind of come straight out from the stem. So for the second one here, I marked my circle. We're going to put the stamen a little higher up in the circle. That tends to look good for flowers that are convex, so they kind of turn down, and those top petals are a little shorter. And that's really what gives us the convex look of that black-eyed Susan flower. We're going to cover a lot of tips today, but if drawing flowers is new to you, you might find the worksheets helpful. Those are available over on my Patreon site. They're part of the channel bonus content that we give every Friday or every weekend. Check it out. It's available for just a couple bucks a month. Okay, back to our flowers. So what I'm gonna do now is go over this in pen so you can really see what I'm doing. Now the petals, I've made each one a little different. Some of them end in a point, some of them end almost square. You wanna wiggle the pen a little bit so that they're not too perfect. And then for the stamen, it's this big burst of like these little bristles. So to convey that, we need to leave a little space there. And I'm kind of scribbling, but I'm leaving some white space so that you can see how bristly and funny that stamen is. I'm going over the stem, kind of just doing 2 lines to thicken it slightly. And basically I'm just following my pencil sketch, going around and doing all these leaves and petals, adding just a hint of line shading, going the direction that the petal is heading or facing, and keeping those leaves kind of going straight out from the stem. Again, we'll do the stamen. It's all these tiny little line scribbles, and I kind of fill in the entire area, leaving that little bit of white space or page showing through so you can see how bristly, that's the only word I can think of, that stamen is. Let's get rid of our pencil sketch so now we can really add some line shading. I was using the 05 Pigment Micron. I'm going to switch to the 005, the tiniest nib. If you're wondering about nib sizes, I have a video all about drawing and I will link that in the video description so you can check that out. But grab a smaller pen and we're going to add all these tiny lines, and this is what really makes your drawing pop, really makes that flower just jump off the page. Add some lines to the leaves, to the petals. Basically, you just go in the direction of the form. So if the leaf is going out to the left, keep your line going out to the left. And the line shading is what really finishes our drawing. Okay, next up, we're gonna draw one of my favorite flowers, and that is the Gladiola. That's the August birth flower, and that's my birthday. Happy birthday to all the August babies. So I start with a line in pencil for the form of the flower. You'll see me adding a couple buds at the very top, and then we place these circles along the stem to indicate where each flower will be. You're gonna place a curving line low in that circle, because we need to make these look like they're opening up, like they're these big blossoms. So let's do another one. Line, and then add the circles where the flowers will be, put that low curving line, and then we just kind of make the circle a little rougher so that it looks like a flower petal and not this smooth circle. You could put some long leaves in there, and we'll go over this in pen with my 05 Pigment Micron so you can really see everything well. So I kind of thicken the stem a little bit, and the stem is going to be this really dark area, and then all the petals or blossoms are going to be white. So in that way, in a black and white image, I'm differentiating between the flower and the leaves and the stem, so the green area. I'm wiggling the pen and making sure my circular blooms are not too smooth, otherwise they're just gonna look weird. I've got some of them overlapping a little bit, which is nice and gives us a nice organic look. And then I continue to shade the stem. We'll add some little leaves tucked in behind. Here's a hint, not everything has to join together exactly. There can be negative space. And then we will eventually add some line shading. I'm doing a little bit now, but I'm going to talk more about that later, because line shading with the pencil sketch still there can be a bit like, I can't see my work very well. So let's go over the second gladiola with our pen, just wiggling the Pigma Micron fine liner so that those blossoms are not too smooth. You need that low curving line. Place a few leaves in behind, maybe darken them a little bit too. And now we'll get our tiny Pigma Micron, the small nib. We've erased all of our pencil at this point, and using that smaller fine liner, we're going to add a ton of line shading, just like we did on the Black-Eyed Susan. So I'm darkening the leaves, and then I'm adding a lot of line shading on these flowers so that they really look like the little trumpets that they are. You want to start right at that curving line that you put down as part of your contour drawing. And these lines, they have to be curved. These lines are helping to show the shape of that flower. So you see how I curve them out to help with the shape of the gladiola blossom? And then I really darken it near the curving line so that they look like they're, super concave, like they're receding. And then I add some lines, some tiny little lines around the perimeter to show that, the flowers are ruffled, that they're not smooth. So I'm helping really define the shape as well as the shadow with this line shading. And that's it for our gladiolas. The final flower we're going to draw together is the chrysanthemum. Again, start with your guide. Decide how big you want the flower to be, and then you're still going to do a circle for the stamen. Now, this one looks complicated, and I've saved the hardest one for last so that you can build your confidence. If you watch these a lot, you're like, no, you didn't. You did it because you always save the hardest thing for last. Yes, I do. So what you want to do is create these rows and rows and rows of tiny, long, thin petals. And that can be a little tricky, but if you set up that guide first, then it's not going to be that hard. And we're going to go over this in pen. I'm going to talk you through it a little bit more. Give it some big floppy leaves, a stem. That part is basic. Let's add our Pigma Micron, our fine liner, and let's talk a little bit more about, exactly how the flower blossom comes together. So we've got all these small little petals right in the center, and they are very tightly grouped. So you want to draw them really tiny, as if these tiny little petals are forming a little sphere in the center of the flower. Can you kind of see that? And then from there, we start drawing the tips of long, thin petals coming up from behind that sphere. So you can see all these tiny little flower petal tips, and they're all kind of a different shape, just like the Black-Eyed Susan. Some of them end with a very sharp point, some of them are kind of square. I wiggle the pen so that they don't look too smooth, and I just tried to make everything look organic. Some of them are small, some of them are a little longer, and as we move outward from center, the petals are kind of unfurling, so they get a lot more loose, and you can see me now adding some that are kind of hanging away from the rest of the flower, and that gives us a nice natural looking mum or chrysanthemum. And for the leaves, I'm just doing a basic leaf. I wanted this one to kind of be pointed down. And I'm doing a bit of a rough edge to these leaves. And we'll put a few lines on there just to, give the leaf some texture and whatnot. And now I've come back in. I'm now using my tiny Pigma Micron. I added just a couple more petals where I thought I needed one. And then we are going to add like a ton of line shading, and that's what makes the chrysanthemum really pop. If you built up some of your line shading skills on the Black-Eyed Susans and the Glads, now you can really use them, because now you're actually going to put line shading on every single little petal. Just stick to the rules, use the line shading to show shadow. So a petal might be darker where it sits right below another one, and you also want to show shape. So make sure that your lines are curving in the direction that that particular petal would curve. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. You know, if the petal's going up, your lines are going up. If the petal's curving down, your lines are curving down. It doesn't take a genius, but when your friends look at your artwork, they're gonna be like, whoa, you're a genius. And then I just added a ton of line shading on those leaves. Added a couple extra little petals where I needed one or two, and that is my chrysanthemum. I hope you enjoyed learning to draw these late summer flowers. I don't even want to say the words late summer, but these are kind of like, you know, August and September flowers. And I hope you'll give them a try. Head to Patreon for the worksheet, hit that subscribe button, and thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring our video today. If you've been thinking about turning your artistic hobby into a business and developing an online presence potentially to sell your work, Squarespace can make the process super simple. You don't need to know anything about coding or web design. Just browse through the professional templates and choose the one that speaks to you. Then simply begin to put your own spin on it. Here's what I did. Switched up the colors and the photos and made a beautiful gallery. They had automatic image scaling and sizing. I was able to upload photos from my social media, and they have 24/7 email support, which means you can always ask a question and sort out your tech troubles. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/ShaydaCampbell to save 10% off a purchase of a website or domain.